Good Saturday evening to you. I'm Danilo Evangelista, and welcome to our weekly discussion this week on hurricane season. Today, Saturday, March 30th, 2024. One more day till Easter. Tomorrow is Easter Sunday. Happy Easter to everybody. And we also have one more day after today to go in March. So we're almost into April, and the countdown, of course, to that with hurricane season continues. Now we're only at 63 days away now till June 1st. Last week we were at 70. Now we're till June 1st, 63 days. But we all know June 1st is still considered the official start of the hurricane season, but the National Hurricane Center begins tropical weather bulletins beforehand, and that usually happens on May 15th. And May 15th is also the start of the Eastern Pacific hurricane season, so I thought we would throw that countdown in this week, and that is 46 days to go till that comes. Even shorter, much shorter than only 60 days left till the season. We're now at 46 till May 15th. So time is definitely not on our side, if you will, in terms of the countdown, and we're definitely getting much closer to the hurricane season with each passing week. After all, this is going to be the last discussion of March, since next week we'll already be into April. And since we're already getting into April, we have hurricane season predictions now beginning to come out, and that's what we're going to talk about. If you saw by the title of the title card that I showed earlier, the first one of two of them, being WeatherTiger, they released their first hurricane forecast as of March, and this is their full article. If you want to read everything that they talk about, I'll link the article in the description. But first of all, I want to talk about WeatherTiger's forecast, and they released and quite a few interesting things in the very least that they mentioned in their discussion. First of all, though, most importantly, they predict 20 to 24 tropical storms, so 20 to 24 named storms. And yes, that does reach the end of the naming list. The naming list only has 21 storms, and their range says we could go beyond that, and we could even go use a few names from that auxiliary list that is there as well. 9 to 12 hurricanes and a whopping 4 to 7 major hurricanes. And if this is right and we do get 7 major hurricanes, that would tie the record for the most amount of major hurricanes in a season. Something we saw in years pretty notable, like 2020 and even 2005. And most importantly, something I found very important too, they have ranges from an ACE from 160 to 225. And not only that, but they have a ACE model, they have a hurricane forecast model, which is what they show throughout their predictions article. And one thing they mentioned is a bold 10 to 15% chance that 2024 bests 1933's record for the most amount of ace in a season, being nearly 260. And you can even see their map here. They take the ace predictions all the way down before they reach the 0% chance in terms of ace. It goes all the way to 300 ace points. So you could clearly see WeatherTiger following very much with the idea that we've been kind of hammering down for the last 2 weeks, that this season could be very active, to say the least. They go on to show, first of all, Atlantic hurricane activity by Atlantic and Pacific water temperatures, and they show where we stand in this graph, and we're right now in the kind of the top echelon of percentage chance in terms of correlation between El Nino, La Nina, and of course the sea surface temperature anomalies in the Atlantic. And they also go on to talk about too. This is their map, kind of summing up what their ideas that they're pointing for this hurricane season. Basically what they're looking at, and some of the key things. First of all, record warmth in the hurricane formation zone, that is the MDR. And yes, we've been talking about record warm sea surface temperature anomalies, basically persistent since last year, and they still remain, and they've not gone away so far. And they also mentioned El Nino expected to end by May, favoring a busier hurricane season. And then with El Nino expecting to end, cooler waters emerging off of South America and the Eastern Pacific for a signal of a summer La Nina. basically all things we've been mentioning for the past winter so far. They also go on to include hurricane risks as well. And this is what I found interesting because a lot of people tend to shy away from talking about the risk when it comes to landfall activity, especially this far out. Because the fact of the matter is, we really can't predict exactly where these storms will go. We can always predict how many we'll get, but we don't really know unless they happen. What's the high pressure pattern? Where's the storm going to go? Is it going to go out to sea? Is it going to form? We don't even know exactly where they'll form, but some people have taken the risk to use climatology and, of course, analogs and kind of get and take a look at past seasons, especially with setups similar to this year, to kind of get an idea of what kind of activity, not only in numbers, but where the activity will be in the Western Atlantic. And that's actually where or well, not just the Western Atlantic, but the Atlantic as whole. And that is actually something that we did last week in last week's video. And we kind of determined that overall, it looks like activity greatly increases in the Western Atlantic, which obviously increases the risks for landfalls in the United States. And that's what they have reflected here, too, with their continental United States landfall odds. And something that I found very interesting, they give a 55% chance for 3+ hurricane impacts. By the way, this is only talking about the continental United States alone, a 55% chance that we could get 3+ hurricane impacts, and a 40% chance that we could get at least one, or overall, I should say, at least a 70% chance of at least one. They actually put it here. There's a 70% chance of at least one continental United States major hurricane landfall. And they even give a 30% chance, which 30% may not seem like a lot right now, but if you think about long range, especially in terms of bold predicting, I should say, 30% chance is a huge risk for saying that we could potentially have two or more, or even more, major hurricane landfalls in the United States. And obviously, just breaking down everything that WeatherTiger said, you may say that this is such an aggressive forecast. How are we going to get 20 to 24 named storms, over 20 named storms? How can we confidently say it this far out in March? Well, WeatherTiger was not the only kind of commercial online website thing, whatever you want to call it, to release a forecast. I mean, the people at WeatherTiger are very knowledgeable, and I like to look at their hurricane forecast every single year. But you get the idea. There are some sort of commercial website that they release hurricane forecasts, as well as AccuWeather, which just came they also came out with their hurricane forecast this past week. And I know some people might say it's AccuWeather or in AccuWeather. That's the joke that sometimes people use. But the bottom line that I'm trying to show is they showed quite literally the exact same numbers that WeatherTiger put out: 20 to 25 named storms, 8 to 12 hurricanes. So just slight variations in the range, but the major hurricane category is the exact same: 4 to 7 major hurricanes predicted by AccuWeather, and they have an accumulated cyclone energy, which is quite interesting because they tend to not do accumulated cyclone energy, or at least I don't remember. But this year they did go for it, and they predict 175 to 225 ACE points, once again hammering in the idea of potentially lots of potentially high ACE producing storms, and just overall a lot of energy being output in the Atlantic this year. And they also too they forecast direct U.S. impacts this year, hinting at potentially as well above average impacts in the United States, going with overall 4 to 6 impacts in the United States. And of course, if you want to read the full article, AccuWeather.com, they have it all here. I'll link the article in the description as well, going over everything and talking about, of course, if you want to just read what they say. Although I guess you could kind of take a look at this graph and it kind of shows everything you need to know. But that is AccuWeather. And then, of course, we go back and we wonder why are so far two pretty decent, honestly, in my opinion, if you ask me, pretty decent websites that go ahead and predict hurricane forecasts. Obviously, they're not like Colorado State University or Tropical Storm Risk or even NOAA when they release the forecast themselves. Which, by the way, Colorado State is actually coming out next Thursday with their forecasts. We'll obviously go over it once it does come out. But why are two major websites coming out with extremely active hurricane season forecasts? And that's what we're going to take a look now. And one of the important factors that they mentioned, both of them mentioned, is the fact is and it's ongoing right now. And not only is it ongoing right now, but it's expected to last into the hurricane season, and that is a very warm Atlantic. I mean, values that are record for not only March, but warmest on record period. And those anomalies have been persistent since last year, and they've not gone away. And even into March, almost April now, starting from the beginning of the year, lots of people talking about how warm the Atlantic is, and some people saying that it was not going to last. Well, here we are, only 2 days, only 2 days away from April, and the anomalies still remain. We still see areas widespread of basically the entire deep tropics. You could see the shades here orange. If you look on the scale, almost the entire deep tropics is shaded in with at least 1 degree Celsius above normal in terms of anomalies, departures from normal in the sea surface temperatures. And not only that, but we have this El Nino that is expected to slowly begin to weaken and potentially transition into a La Nina this summer. You can already see those anomalies beginning to show up along the equatorial Pacific. You see some of these blues near South America, and obviously we're seeing a whole bunch of colder sea surface temperature anomalies, subsurface cold, that'll help La Nina develop this summer, and eventually that'll make its way along the equatorial Pacific. And something just fell. Well, that was my phone, but that's fine. Moving along, anyways, you get the point. La Nina is expected to arrive. Combine that with a very warm Atlantic, and you get the picture that everybody is latching on to, and that is basically that this season looks very active indeed. And I'm just going to show you with the sea surface temperature anomalies in the Atlantic, some of these anomalies that we're actually seeing. Not only have they remained warm, but in recent days, they've began to go up. And we've seen a decrease over time, especially from, let's say, mid-February, trades that tend to happen. Sometimes the Atlantic warms up and cools back down, but we're still, bottom line, at least as of the latest value, the average, at least for the Eastern Atlantic, is at 1.3 Celsius, almost 1.4 Celsius on average above normal. And something that I've found always shocking and quite honestly amazing is the fact that we've not even dipped below 1 degree Celsius, a full degree Celsius above normal in the MDR since the new year. You see, since 2023, look, we've not even gone anywhere near a solid 1 Celsius above normal. We've stayed well above that since, and it does not look like we're going to cool down anytime soon, majorly. And even in the Caribbean, too, we're talking about the Atlantic, but what about the Caribbean alone? Well, that has also remained warm, and also very warm. In fact, they recently had a huge warm up, and now there too we're also above 1 degree Celsius, a full degree Celsius in anomalies in the Caribbean. And once you average all of that up together, the deep tropics is solidly at least 1 degree Celsius above normal, and it's basically been that way since the start of the year. So all the factors are there. Everybody's looking at it. And you can even take a look at the actual sea surface temperatures right now, just to kind of give an idea of where we're at. And even right now in the Gulf of Mexico, an area that is well above normal. Let's actually go back to here, and this will actually have an impact on severe weather season now that we're getting into April and May, and of course we start seeing these weather systems that drive in Gulf moisture, combined with the trough moving from the west to the east. And we get severe weather events to spin up along the plains and across the eastern United States, especially. And even there too, you see the Gulf anomalies, very warm. And how does that translate into actual sea surface temperatures in the Gulf? Well, one thing I could point out to you is the 25 degrees Celsius mark, not 26, because The 26 Celsius mark is still kind of tucked in into the Caribbean, though it's not all the way down into the Caribbean right now. We're actually seeing it begin to advance a little bit, but especially the 25 Celsius mark. Look at that. 25 degrees Celsius, around mid 70s, mid to upper 70s, almost conducive for tropical cyclone development. And look at that, already extends well into the northern Gulf. In fact, you can kind of see the 25 degrees Celsius line right here. And look how close that is to the Louisiana coastline. Just goes to show just how warm the Atlantic is right now and just how much energy there is overall in the Gulf. And the Gulf is honestly not really any much of a concern anyway for sea surface temperatures, because no matter what, even if it's just near normal or even if it's slightly below normal, especially during the hurricane season, the Gulf, especially helped by the loop current, will always be warm for development no matter what. There will always be at least 26, 27 Celsius on average, even 28 on average in the Gulf by the time we get to hurricane season. And by the time we get to June anyways, all of these anomalies that we see right now, shelf water is still kind of cold. It is March anyways. We still see cold fronts that move by and mix some of these shelf waters up. That'll all go away by late next month in May and June, and this will all warm up to values in the upper 20s and even low 30s in Celsius, especially by the time we get to the summer. So the Gulf is not of much concern, but when we take a look at the whole Atlantic, over an entire view of the Caribbean, Gulf, and even portions off the southeast coast, really want to focus in on the Caribbean. The fact we have widespread 28 Celsius already, and look at how far north too the 26 degrees Celsius line extends, already above 20 Celsius. And I actually saw a map kind of showing how this year we basically have the highest extending 26 degrees Celsius line, extending the furthest north, even battling with some years like 2010 and 2005 as well. But bottom line, the warmth is already there across the entire Atlantic. We're already starting to see values 26 Celsius extending far north. And so far, even into March, the fact that we're already beginning to get 28 Celsius values widespread across the Caribbean, the Eastern Caribbean too, even into portions of the southwestern MDR, right near the islands, 28 Celsius there, and widespread throughout the Central Caribbean and even into the Western Caribbean as well. And just imagine the amount of the high content of ocean heat content there is added to this as well. Quite incredible, and honestly, stuff that we'll have to watch very closely as we get closer to the hurricane season. But really quickly, I do want to bring up, since it is obviously severe weather season, and we talked about how warm the Gulf is, severe weather will actually kick up over the next few days, starting off with today. Just, kind of get an idea of what's going on with the United States weather over the next few days. But today, there is a slight risk for portions of Ohio, and I see some West Virginia in there as well. There's also a slight risk as well for portions of Illinois and Indiana, but the main event really comes early next week when we have an enhanced risk. This is from Monday over portions of the plains and portions of the Midwest as well, includes Oklahoma and portions of Missouri. And that actually looks like a quite expansive area of at least a slight risk for severe weather, and even a pretty expensive area for enhanced as well. And this continues because this is actually supposed to be a pretty significant weather event. This continues into day 4, possibly some severe weather that extends east as well, potentially impacts portions of the southeast and the Virginias and even portions of North Carolina as well. And this kind of seems like it could be all part of some sort of nor'easter I saw. And this is actually part of an overall pattern where we could see a very strong negative NAO in the Atlantic, and this will be part of it, that we see a very strong system come off the east coast of the United States and kind of set up like a nor'easter off the coast of Massachusetts. I believe this is all. What am I trying to say? This is all a part of it. If you're kind of getting what I'm saying. But bottom line, we could see severe weather and pretty significant at that too I mean, it's April anyway. We're getting into April. We're in the last day or so of March. And before you know it, we'll be into April, and we'll start seeing a lot more severe weather events appear down south. And we'll probably get some pretty significant ones too, maybe a few tornado outbreaks. All in cue with all the seasons that are coming in. We're beginning to transition into spring. And before you know it, once we get past this sort of, patch of severe weather that we'll see, before you know it, we'll already be in late May, and hurricane season will be right on our doorstep. Time flying by as always, obvious. And before you know it, we'll be in hurricane season, and we'll get to see just how active this hurricane season will really play out. Of course, though, first we have to go through severe weather season and Easter tomorrow, which I did mention earlier. But especially to those that celebrate, happy Easter. And hope you have a safe, lovely Easter tomorrow. And yeah, stay safe, peace, love, and kindness to all. We will go over next week the predictions from Colorado State University, because I believe that comes out Thursday. We might even do a special video on Thursday to kind of go over and highlight what Colorado State University says. But I'm pretty sure, honestly, they'll probably go along the lines that we saw with WeatherTiger and AccuWeather, or that, at least, in the very least, won't surprise me at all if they do so. But with that being said, that'll wrap up for this week. Stay safe, peace, love, and kindness to all. Once again, if you're celebrating Easter, happy Easter. Enjoy your festivities. Enjoy your time with family. And we will talk again very soon. See you.